how we'll approach tutoring. So basically, I want to say this is probably the different strategies. So I guess if you guys want to talk about like basically our discussion at the table earlier. So why will you approach tutoring the way that you do?
Okay, sure, I can't hear.
You guys think?
Yeah, man.
Have we started yet?
Mm-hmm.
What? Oh well, staying on there.
So what do you guys think? I guess having a welcoming environment is something that you guys want. So how are you going to approach tutoring to students that are open and receptive to the information you guys are sharing?
I got it to say welcome.
Okay, well, I guess I think one of the best ways to do it is not lecture the student themselves, but instead have them go up to a board or take notes or whatever and actually have them do and learn whatever material that they're coming to you for. So I think it's really good to, I guess, do it yourself rather than listening, because most people, at least I personally, learn more by doing it myself rather than listening to someone. Someone could be there to help you and guide you, and I think that's what the tutors are supposed to do. As someone that is there for tutoring, it's best if they start to do that themselves.
Yeah, that's good. What else do you guys think?
I think it's definitely important to build like a student-to-student relationship instead of like the common like relationship between professor and student where it's just a lecture in a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of like tutoring is an adjustment, like it's an adjusted pace towards the learning rather than what you'll just experience in a lecture or a seminar of any kind.
I agree. I think it's important to figure out what type of student you're going to be tutoring, like what are his studying habits, how does he learn best, and try to like what's the word I'm looking for? Try to tutor him to his learning styles, like his studying habits, and the best way he learns, like visual or interactive or stuff like that.
Also, if you guys like are trying to share something and you notice that your volume's not coming across, there should be a button on the bottom where it says mute or unmute, so you can hit that button. Or you had to hit, yeah. So okay. So it looks like everybody's unmuted. So I just didn't know if somebody was trying to say something and it didn't come through.
I think it's important to like get to know the students' names, especially if they're coming like pretty frequently or almost like every week. Just getting to know someone's name can really like make them feel comfortable, like you really do care about them being there and they're not just like another student.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, especially if they're your regulars. If they're your regulars, you better know their name, because that's kind of rude if you don't.
Right. Well, it depends on your class size as well. So you might have students come in that are totally random one day, and then they'll come back in a month or two later. And it's understandable if you don't know their name, because if you're tutoring a class that has like 400 people in it, it's kind of reasonable. But
No,
just be personable with each student.
yeah, that's why I said irregulars, because there'll be people that come in semi-regularly, like maybe like on a weekly basis.
Right. Well, if you don't, it's polite to remember the names, but if you don't have a good memory, you could just be like, I'm sorry, I don't really remember your name a couple times, and you should remember it by the end of the semester.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
far, nobody has regulars because they're all new tutors. So
yeah.
I would also say that having a good attitude would be helpful as a tutor, because I mean, learning is already hard enough as it is, and depending on what teacher these students have, you know, they might not be in the mood to be you know, talked down to by a teacher and then also another student as well. So it's best to be in the best attitude as you possibly can, because you know, you guys are both students. You guys both want the same thing, which is to learn the information as efficiently as possible. So having a bad attitude really isn't going to help make that process any easier.
To kind of go off of that, I always thought it was like really important and like significant that like students are able to kind of pick up on your mood, and like, you know, if you're having a bad day, like they can definitely pick that up. They can definitely pick that up. You know, if you're coming into a tutoring session and like you're not having a great day. So I think it's always important to kind of try and leave those, you know, what like your bad day at the door, and then coming in and like, you know, they're there to learn, and you know, they're looking to kind of help them. So making sure that you kind of reflect that, and you know, if you smile, they're gonna smile, and so your students will kind of mirror your energy that you kind of give off.
And that'll make you like easy to approach, and really it'll be more easy for them to open up to you, because you're a complete stranger at first, and that's kind of tough just to like open up. And sometimes like you go into tutoring because like you really just don't know a subject. You're nervous and really just kind of shy. And I think once you kind of build that relationship and you smile at them and they kind of smile back and you get to know their name, then you can kind of like read their kind of energy and kind of know where their comfort levels are in terms of the material. And then you can get into different strategies that you can work with them.
Yeah, I think to add to that, especially for like the first time people who come to the tutoring tables, sometimes they're like really shy and don't know when to ask a question. So I think it's really helpful if tutors speak up and introduce themselves and say, you know, you can ask me a question anytime you have one. I'm free and here to help you. And on top of that, when they are just sitting there and doing their homework or studying or whatever, it's good to kind of check in on them, because they may have a question but may have been too shy to ask any kind of questions that they do have.
I think it's really important to build, like I'm building off what you guys think, a relationship with your students. Like you're saying, students are often shy that want to come in here and get tutoring. So, I mean, sometimes talking about not even the subject material in the beginning is something that builds your relationship. Maybe when I took this class,
Hello?
She cut off.
I think she froze.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
But yeah, I agree. Like, I believe you should get to know the students first, and then build on that relationship by tutoring. She right behind you.
So what kind of strategies would you guys kind of like use when you're trying to help them out?
I would suggest strategies that I myself use, like, you know, making flashcards, reviewing notes, reading PowerPoints, and see which strategies work best for them in relation to how they operate. So, you know, their learning styles and whatnot.
Those are great ways to kind of do like a self-check, how we were talking about.
And I think as tutors, we should be able to open up the students to as many resources as possible, because sometimes they just have their textbooks and notes, but there's so many more useful tools out there. I know like Khan Academy is useful, and I've used it before in my studies. So kind of like redirecting them to different types of resources that they can look up and get help on their own when they aren't in the learning center. I think that would be useful.
I think kind of just knowing your resources that you have on campus is important too, because I think it's like Pavlov's hierarchy of like need or something. Like students aren't going to be concerned too much like with their grades and stuff if they're having other issues and they kind of open up and express that to you. I think it's important to kind of like be able to not only help them in like, you know, tutoring, but then also like kind of helping them connect to different resources on campus, like if they need it. So having like a good list, and I think that'd be something that would be important for us to kind of have and like start, maybe just like on the Google Drive. I think it'd be really important.
I also think it's good to be, you know, a helping hand when it comes to tutoring students because, you know, like I said before, learning is hard enough as it is, and going to tutoring should be a way to kind of ease some of that stress that comes with learning stuff. Like when you come to a tutoring session, you should leave a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more at ease than when you leave. Like for me, when I've gone to tutoring, you know, I've gone to the tutor, they've helped me as best they can, and I still feel kind of lost with the material. That should be the case, you know, as a tutor. You should be able to kind of give the student a clear understanding of what they're trying to study when they come to you.
Right, and as a tutor, if you don't know the answer, because you're not going to know everything, right? So pointing the student to a resource is really helpful. So we always have a book at our table for our science course. So if we can't answer the question, we're like, I don't know the answer to that, but let me point you in the right direction. Let me give you the page number and you can read it, and then you can summarize it to me, or I'll read the book and then she'll read, or the student will read the book, and then we'll discuss it together. So there's other ways to go about that too if you don't know anything, so your students are not leaving entirely confused. So
Yeah, and you don't always just have to refer them to a textbook. You may have another tutor that might know, or you might have online videos that you think are very helpful and helped you. There might be other websites that give really good interactive help. You can refer them to their professor's office hours if you know they have a really good professor in particular. Or you could refer them to tutoring in another department. Like I know the math department does tutoring. I know the physics department does tutoring. I know there's writing services elsewhere and on campus. So you can always refer people to different resources across campus and even off campus.
right.
I'd almost go as far as like other students in like the group that you're working with, because like a lot of them are going to be from those same like elemental classes.
Mm-hmm.
So you can almost have them all like work as a team together towards like understanding a concept, and as one explains to the other, that's kind of reinforcing like how we were talking about like mentally recalling information while one's just taking it in.
So what do you guys think like of the strategies? How are you guys going to propose to incorporate some of the active learning, critical thinking, mentorship, and study methods in your tutoring sessions?
I think definitely when it comes time for an exam, and usually you do, it's good to have them maybe create their own study guides. I think it would be a form of both retrieval by coming up with material and remembering material to put on it, and it's a good study method. If you create your own study guides and answer your own questions, and maybe you come across questions that you don't know how to answer, and then you can go to the tutors for help.
I think when you're helping out like other students, like you're not gonna be able to kind of be, you know, and like multiple classes at once. So like if you have like students in like different subjects, you can have that while you're helping one student, you can have, like these 2 or 3 other students group up and kind of work on the similar problem together. Or you could have like if they're completely different and they're not similar in any way, you can just have them like look at a video or kind of reviewing their notes in their textbook and just letting them know like, I'll come back to you and, but while I do that, don't just sit here and do nothing. Kind of start reviewing your textbook and things like that.
Yeah. So anybody else want to say what you guys are planning on doing for your strategies?
I know in like, previous sessions that I did, especially if there was like a lot of students and I was the only tutor there, everyone wants help at once, but obviously you can't help everyone at once. You could group together students that need that are on the same problems, but others, if maybe they're in different classes, you can, and they need help, maybe you can have them watch a video on the topic while they're waiting for you to help answer their questions, because maybe their question will be answered from the video itself, and they wouldn't even to need the tutor.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea too. Because often you'll have multiple students, so not everybody's going to be on the same page. I think that's a good way to do that too.
What about the people that haven't spoke? Like Alyssa or Marlene or who else? I don't know. I feel like Jenna and Christopher and Barry and Alyssa are kind of person. Vori.
Yes.
I'll try to remember that.
You're good.
Do you guys have anything to add?
For me, I like to touch bases with the students first and see like how they study, and see and ask them if they think that method works for them, and if it seems like their grades aren't improving or that they're doing worse, then I would propose maybe my own suggestions, like, oh, maybe you should summarize the concepts on a single paper rather than rereading the whole book, or things like that, doing flashcards.
By the way, I'm sorry if I sounded mean or condescending. I didn't mean to.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, I just realized it.
I just don't know what to add. But
Anybody will individually, are you guys planning on kind of using each other's advice, like what we've been discussing, and implementing it in your tutoring sessions, or do you disagree with some things, or do you have a better way of doing it? What do you guys think?
I actually do. I think I'll use some of you guys' input in my sessions, honestly, because I don't know, it's just different ways, especially like since you're going to be interacting with other people, you should probably take into consideration what other people think when you're tutoring. So if you're like stagnant and you only focus on what you think is best, when other people are maybe doing it differently, you might not be reaching your whole audience. Yeah,
that makes perfect sense. Because obviously there's more than one way to do anything. And you need and as a tutor, you need to be, you need to introduce that flexibility to your students. Like, this is like the most preferred way to do a thing, but if you found a way that's easier and more helpful for you, then do that way. Do that way for you.
I definitely agree. I think that like there's always going to be like, there's my way of like doing, there's always like more than one way to approach a problem, and kind of like even say, oh, I do it this way. Well, I think just kind of like reassuring them that like that's great, that's awesome, and like you can help, you can like show your fellow like table mates that way, because maybe they have a similar mindset like you, and so kind of sharing that, and then just like kind of like what Jonathan was saying, just like being able to be flexible and kind of just keeping an open mind that there's more than one way to do things.
I think with keeping that in mind, we have to also keep into consideration that everyone learns in a different way, whether it be like visual or audio learning or hands-on. So we need to like remember that and try to figure out how each student learns differently and best.
Is there anything else you guys want to add? I mean, it's been about 15 minutes now, so if you guys want to come back to the Learning Center, that's good too. Yeah, you guys want to do that?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll meet back here.
Do I stop recording?
You just end the video.
Adios.
Stop the video. Wait, I'll stop.